swapping it.
Right. Not a real production.
Yeah.
Bench scale.
Yeah,
based
just
on-
to test.
Probably the water has a very great impact on the characteristics.
And what's the difference between the two waters? Is one sort of softer? Is one harder?
Yeah, Hakushu is softer than Yamazaki. And the hardness unit we have at Yamazaki about 90, and Hakushu only 30. But the mineral, the hardness cannot explain everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. The minerality as well.
It's one kind of one factors. Yes.
It's very interesting. When I was at Selfridges, as well as doing wine and spirits buying, I did some water buying.
Right.
And I did this test of it must have been 60 different waters. And it's amazing when you really see the difference between them and how kind of salty to very, very neutral to, it's incredible. And texture as well. And also, do you think with the climate between the two, is there a difference? Because you have two aging warehouses, don't you? Are you seeing quite a lot of difference between the two warehouses as well?
Yeah. Yamazaki temperature much higher than Hakushu. So then your high temperature gives a much more wood extract in the new spirit. That's why not everything, but relatively we employed the larger cask or Yamazaki site maturation and a smaller cask in Hakushu. So
to pull more
yeah.
from the wood. And is there a difference in the humidity? So are you finding one is you're using more alcohol than water and water than alcohol?
Not only the site, the position in the warehouses.
Yes.
That's why, when we make some blending recipe, but for example, Yamazaki 12 years bourbon cask whiskeys, but it's one line as a recipe, but we ask that warehouse people to different position put together. It's because the positions are different, even same specifications.
And it's amazing, isn't it? Because I think when people think about things like a warehouse, they think, oh, it's a warehouse, it's all the same. But the difference between being on the ground and being on the top could be very, very different, which is incredible. I think one of the other things, I love yeast, and I love what yeast does, and I think it's fantastic. And for me, it's one of the biggest flavour providers. I think we don't talk about it enough. We talk about the stills, we talk about the wood, but actually, if you didn't have the yeast, you wouldn't have flavour.
Right.
And in Japan, you do things quite differently from the Scotch industry. Can you talk a little bit about the yeast process and what you do?
We have learned a lot of things from Scotch industry for long years. Okay. And nowadays, most Scotch distilleries using distillers yeast. But we know that maybe many years ago, Scotch industry is both brewers yeast and distillers yeast. Then, from our experiment and studies, brewers yeast plus distillers yeast make a much more complexity flavor and heavier spirit. So when we distill that heavier, long maturation spirit, we use both distiller yeast and brewer's yeast.
And are you pitching them at the same time, or are you putting the brewer's yeast first and then the distillers?
It depends, but also, yes, almost same pitching. But sometimes, if necessary, firstly, distiller yeast, a bit later on, pitching at brewer's yeast. It could happen.
And will you do in both distilleries, you'll use the same treatment and the same yeast? Or
same.
You won't change the character because that keeps the consistency.
And Suntory also has breweries to make a beer, so we can use that in our yeast as well.
So it's almost a proprietary yeast.
Yes.
And the other thing I think that for me gives so much character to your spirits and gives actually the weight and the texture as you direct fire on your wash stills. What character do you think that gives the whiskies?
Direct fire gives us some much heavier body. So steam distillation a bit lighter and crispy. Then nowadays all our pot stills, both in Yamazaki and Hakushu, all stills and everything by direct firing distillation. So as a basic quality, we need a bit of body. Then we decorated any other characteristics, but the basement, as a basement, direct firing suit our ideal quality.
And I guess it gives you the ability to have that sort of richer spirit, can then take on different woods and
Right.
give you more kind of ability to age for a longer period because you've got to.
Yes, so we have two directions to the better quality. One is that the fundamental essential quality coming up, even same 8 years sherry cask, but much better than other basic quality. And also another direction is that the diversity, different type of spirit. So we are doing the both direction.
And that gives you, again, another thing to play with in your toolkit, which is fantastic. And, we can't not talk about whiskey and not talk about wood. And, I think what we've seen over the last maybe 10 years is this insane interest, not just in Japan, but with Mizunara.
Okay.
Can you talk about why Mizunara is so special and why we're suddenly seeing so many people, not just in Japan, but all over the world?
Okay.
The buzzword is Mizunara.
Yes. Yes. Actually, in 1940s, during World War, at that time it was very difficult to get the cask and the wood from abroad. So we had to make cask using domestic oak. So at that time we tried to make different type of oak in Japan, and Mizunara is a most unleaking wood. So not
Tight.
not flavor and aroma purpose. We employed Mizunara for the much as a containers better using the Mizunara. Then, but as we launched the Yamazaki single malt in 1984, for 1940s we made only blended whiskey using American white oak and sherry cask. But we had to use Mizunara cask. I guess that the chief blender at that time was very embarrassed because a totally different character he had to use. That's why he didn't like Mizunara. The relatively short time maturation, maybe 3-4 years. Then you dumping out, and they used to be used.
Is it a hard wood to use? Like, is it to get the balance so it doesn't overpower the whiskey, I guess?
Right. So wood is very hard, easy to leak, and for example, colorness, just between American white oak and Spanish oak, relatively gives the darker colors. Then, so using cycle very quickly. However, when we developed Hibiki, Hibiki was launched in 1989. At that time, we recognized long maturation in Mizunara is very unique. Then he decided he's the third generation chief blender, Dr. Inatomi. He decided to use a Mizunara whiskey as a key malt with blending.
To almost add a spice and a flavor, yes.
Then 2002 or 3, when Dave Bloom and Michael Johnston came to Yamazaki, we showed a Mizunara whiskey. Then he surprised, wow, different. Probably since then, Mizunara name of it is a spread globally.
And, it's so interesting because it adds such an incredible dimension to the whiskey. It's almost this perfume and this sort of very, very aromatic.
Aromatic and very spicy.
Yes. And I guess it must be quite fun to kind of use it almost as the kind of a top note to dressing to the whiskey.
Yeah, in particular 2000, 20 years ago, it just started single malt trend. Then Mizunara was accepted, I believe, because the same reason that new character very difficult to the old style.
Everyone wants something new.
Yeah.
And you also, of course, don't just have single malt. You have your grain distillery in Chita. And, I love grain whiskey, and I don't think we talk enough about it. Why is Chita such an important part of the Suntory family?
Yeah. Again, we started with blended whiskey, and still Kaku Bean, Toki, and Hibiki is quite important brand. So we needed a blend whiskey. But again, even Growski, I